Hello, everyone. This is Stefan Semmelroth. I am not the host of today's panel. Jeff Lee is, but this is cybersecurity, and we're both agile and adaptive. And if we can't go live in one place, we will go live in another because the show must go on. I know we've got a great setup going for today. This will be a whole lot of fun. We've got a ton of really good content for you all. Looking forward to getting into it. Uh, I think we're ready to go, and I'm excited.
I think we're ready to go as well, and thank you for opening that for us. As you guys can see, we're probably going to see some numbers pop up here shortly, but we had some issues with the Zoom account. Unfortunately, we don't have our own Zoom account at the Transition Assistance Program, but we do have a backup in place, as you can see. So we've had to jump over from that Zoom to this. As Stefan said, we're adaptive and flexible, and we're just going to go forward with it. Something else that's going to change tonight is, unfortunately, we also are losing one of our panel members. Miss McMerritt is not going to be able to attend. Um, she is unable to make it onto this platform, and it just goes back to losing out on the Zoom capability we lost out on having her present as well. But we still do have Stefan and Nicole, and Nicole is working on her audio. So while she is working on her audio, I am going to start talking about why we are doing the Tech to Halls. And I'm also going to introduce you a little bit to others that we have in the group. So why the Tech to Halls? Why now? It's something that we have been building on for a couple of months, trying to figure out when the right time to do it was, when would be uh, the best time to do it, and it came down to December. December is where it worked out. So we came up with a catchy name, and Tech the Halls was born. So why now? Well, the reason why now and why December and why it all worked out the way it did is because we've been looking to find a way to showcase other opportunities out there. You know, as you are getting ready to prepare to separate from the military, a lot of us focus on the things that we've done in the military and the things that we think that we're supposed to be doing when we leave the military, because we hear, hey, go out and do, get your CDL and become an over the road truck driver, or go and become a mechanic and use those maintenance skills that you learned in the military. Um, but nobody ever wants to talk in depth about the other opportunities that are out there, like the software development and the cloud administration and the network administration. And sometimes it's things that we don't really do in the military that much. Um, because up until recently, cloud hasn't been part of the military's structure, and up until recently, cybersecurity hasn't really been part of the military structure. But we've been doing tech things our entire careers, and if you look across the spectrum, you'll notice that about 50% of all military roles out there are tech-related career roles. Um, in the military, they're tech-related positions, STEM-related style positions. Yet when we walk away from the military, because there's no ability to transfer that over, we just lose people out of STEM. For all the medics that are out there, and everybody knows a medic, right? For every medic that's out there, whenever they leave the military and they go into the medicine field, it's complete retraining, even though they were in wartime situations. They were doing so. It's stuff like that that we're trying to get addressed. And what we wanted to start with and address it with Tech the Halls was specifically, let's talk about tech. And so today we're doing the cybersecurity, so breaking into careers in cybersecurity. Um, and it's something that we really get a lot of questions about, and I don't have the answers for. So I wanted to bring in people that I thought would be the experts, and that's where Stefan comes in. That's where Mick comes in. That's where Nicole comes in, and there's so many more out there too. Josh Mason was originally one of our panel members. He wasn't able to make it tonight. Um, Jack Scott was another one of our potential panel members, and she was not able to be able to be with us tonight. Um, Fortunately, because we had Stefan as part of the panel, we're able to jump in and he's a much more skilled and adept host of web hosting, visual web hosting than I am. So uh, he's got his own restream and got his own ability to go live on YouTube. So we're able to jump on and use that. So right now, I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to give a special thanks to Matt Black and the USO team for their ability to give us a Zoom for the previous two. Unfortunately, they were not able to tonight because they had some cybersecurity related issues with the Zoom over the weekend, and they had some lockdown on Zoom, so we had to jump platforms. And I'm also going to say thank you to the Fort Stewart Hunter Army Airfield TAP team because uh, this TAP team came together to create this event and make it happen, and we're able to get in there and do that. So uh, thank you to those folks, and then also thank you to Stefan, Nicole, and Mick who are had volunteered to be part of the panel tonight, even though Mick can't make it. I'm going to have Stefan jump in and let him introduce himself. So I'll turn the floor over to him.
Well, I'm not gonna steal the floor. I'll just hop up on it for a second. So my name is Stefan Semmelroth. I responded to my first cyber incident in 2001, which is the NIMDA virus, and that got me interested in security, which took me a lot of different places. Went into West Point electrical engineering, came out, love hard problems, so I went into the infantry, Ranger School, Afghanistan deployment. Came back, found out I'd unfortunately broken my back, and that meant I couldn't really be an infantryman anymore. So I switched over to the Army's new Cyber Corps, where the Army ping ponged me around from continent to continent to solve some pretty big problems. And that was super fun and a big challenge to do. But medically retired shortly after, about 3 years in the Cyber Corps. And once I retired, uh, I started something that I think was really important for me personally to do, which is to make sure more veterans get into cybersecurity. And with that, the company that I started was a Rainier Cyber, and it was a cybersecurity recruiting company. Did a little bit of incident response because I'm a glutton for punishment, and then I sold that to Stratacore, and now I lead the security division, the security practice at Stratacore for the brokerage that we run. Ton of fun, and I also still love getting back to the community. So I tend to do between 200 and 300 individual mentor sessions every year. I haven't launched the plan for 2022 yet, so we'll see what happens there. But I love this industry, and just at a personal note, when I went to my first 2600 security hacker meetup from, I want to say it was like 2004, 2003, 2004. Uh, as an outsider coming into that, uh, there was really no way to break in. Literally, it was like a couple people huddled around a table, and there was like you physically could not break into the conversation. So I wanted to make sure that as we move forward as an industry, we give people a voice, um, and and we make sure that when people do come in, you physically can join the conversation. You can be here, and you can you can see the cool industry that we have, and the people that are, over the last 20 years has gone from exclusive to incredibly inclusive. So yeah, it's been a great time, and I want to share that. Let's see. We'll see if Nicole, you should be on stage now. Can you hear and or see us? And Jeff, you're on stage as well. I'm not seeing. Okay. I guess we're gonna have to come back to Nicole. Oh, hold on. She's in our private chat here. Nicole, try saying something, see if we can hear you. Okay. AV issues then. All right, Jeff. We're
So
gonna
Nicole, I can tell you, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. All right, yeah, can tell you, Nicole, that you might have to check your input on the actual device itself.
And while
I had
she's
to
doing that, I'm
switch
gonna
around my
answer.
inputs for my device.
Well, yeah, while she's getting that set up, I'll answer some of the questions in chat that have popped up so far. Uh, Joe Kaczynski asked, "What happened with the Zoom support?" Unfortunately, we don't control that. It's through a partner, and they had a couple issues, so we weren't able to use it. Um, uh, oh, Zishan, hey, how's it going? Yeah, I love mentoring, so it's a ton of fun. I really enjoy it. I get a lot out of it personally. Michael Farrow asked, "Why am I not? Why is Stefan me not running and talking to you today?" Uh, it's cold, and and I don't want to go outside today. I want to sit down for a little bit. Give me a break, man. It's December. Let's see. It says LinkedIn user. So Zishan, how do you get about a session? For mentoring, I will be publishing some more information about that come first of the year. So make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon as we get closer to the new year. Uh, I got to figure out exactly. I got to finish figuring out exactly how I'm going to do it. Last year I screwed up, and I didn't think I was going to get booked 6 months in advance. So I just had that last mentoring session last week that was booked in June. Uh, so I'm going to try to make it a little bit easier, more to get a time with me, instead of having to wait 6 months. And Nicole, I'm just going to bring you up to the stage. So that way, as you work with your settings, you can try talking, and we'll let you know if it works or not.
Yeah, and that's fine. You can leave her up there, as far as I'm concerned. Just in case it ever does pop on, we can see it. All right, so I will jump in and answer some of those questions. So what happened with the Zoom support? So, Joseph, the Zoom support was essentially, it is USO controls that Zoom account, and they had some issues with some events that they had going on this weekend. Unfortunately, some personnel were exposed to some things that they shouldn't have been exposed to, and as a result of that, they wanted to lock down their accounts, and that's what they did. So we had to switch. It just is what it is. It's one of those things that happens. It's like driving down the road and something falls out of the truck in front of you. You got to swerve. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the questions. And since Stefan is the only one that we have here right now, I'm going to ask him the first question. And I'm going to go back to, so as a West Point grad with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, uh, and 423rd Platoon Leader, an Ops Officer, Ranger, somewhere in there, where did you figure out, and I know you said back in 2001, but where did you really figure out, hey, this is what I want to do?
Oh, yeah. So I'll jump into that story a little bit. So going through that first incident response in around 2001, um, I didn't really appreciate how important that was and how foundational it was to my understanding of the industry, right? Um, so I kind of discounted that for a long time. I thought it was just something, hey, we had an incident and we responded to it, and eventually we fixed it. The the result of that meant I didn't quite um, have that picked as an option. Um, where I really had to do some work was after uh, in 2014. That was around the time that I found out that I had really actually broken my back, and I had to go through that identity search of can I still be an infantryman? Um, the answer clearly, if you have a weak spine, maybe you shouldn't be an infantryman. But I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what paths were open, and the cyber core was opening up, and I thought, well, hey, I'll give it a shot. And I got there, and it was a interesting challenge. It was some of it was fun, some of it was tough, some of it was frustrating because you're building this thing from the ground up. And then, I started to realize that, my superpowers are kind of aligned with disasters and working through disasters and preventing disasters. And with the background that I have, in technical analysis and being able to speak to different people, and I having that background in IT, it just kind of focused me in that direction and confirmed that this is the route that I should consider going. It was a roundabout route to get there because I did start, a recruiting company before that, and uh, the thing that really tipped me off during that experience was going back to a I happened to be in the same geography for a company that I'd consulted with in the early 2000s, and they had, this big breach came up, and so I happened to be in the area, and I had, like, a day off, and so I reached out to their legal team and said, "Hey, bring me in." They're in a they're in this SLED industry, so, state and local education. So I said, "Hey, come in. This will be part of my give back." So I showed up, um, talked with them, we helped them work through the incident response. It's like, I'm better at this than I realize. Maybe I should go down that route." That's kind of, the journey, was realizing that that is often a big part of my superpower, is being able to navigate through bureaucracies, understand what actually motivates people, and then how do you actually align revenue with loss prevention, and can you actually use security to increase revenue? Turns out that's what I'm good at. There you go, Jeff. I see you, trying to come back.
Yeah, my computer's in the middle of doing its thing right now. Decided it wasn't going to let me unmute just yet. Um, no, so I was going to say, I'm actually going to cue something from Mick that I've heard her say a number of times, and there was going to be a follow-on question for you in there, but I'm going to just go ahead and jump and hit both of them at the same time. But and Mick, if you're listening and I misquote you, I apologize. But I've heard you say something to the effect of you don't have to be in tech to be in cybersecurity. And Stefan, I know that you're not necessarily in the tech side of cybersecurity. So, what do you have to say on that point?
Oh gosh, Mick is so right in this case, and uh, the way that the way that Mick brings this up is truly important. I really want to hammer this home. Uh, there are two routes into cybersecurity. There's the one route that everybody tells you, and that you'll see all the marketing on, which is, you go learn A plus and Net plus and Sec plus, and then go into a help desk route, and then after help desk, then you can go into pen testing, and then after pen testing, you can, ah, and then eventually you become a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO. The While that is a route, and it's a very valid route, that's the route that many people go to get into tech, and I kind of started off on that route. I started by pulling cable and uh, plugging in things in a domain and learning batch scripting back in the day. That route is not necessarily the route that everyone needs to go. So if that was the only route into cybersecurity, we would have no ability to take the things that you build to market. So that way to go to market means we actually need marketing. We need sales. We need sales engineers, which is what I did, years ago. We need cyber lawyers. We need to figure out how to leverage an entire population. So um, uh, oftentimes what I'll do is, when I'm mentoring somebody, what we'll do is we'll start off with, like, an assessment, like a Myers-Briggs assessment. Okay, are you introverted? Are you extroverted? What are some of the big things that motivate you? How does like what are those things? Who are you? And hey, Nicole, we can see you. I
We
was to
had
get your
Nicole.
audio set up. We'll
Yeah,
bring
we
you
had
on.
Nicole for a second.
Yep. I see. Okay, you're smiling, so you can hear us too. Uh, I'll bring you on, and you can test. So because uh, we start off with the identity of a person that helps us figure out which route they should go. And I can't tell you how often that I run into people and they'll say things like, "Hey, I want to get into cybersecurity, but I'm late in my career. And if I'm late in my career, I don't want to go start off, the technical route." Okay, well, tell me about what you did before security. Oh, it's not relevant. No, 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 no. Tell me what it is, and I'll tell you if it's relevant or not. Oh, I did sales for 20 years. Cool. Maybe you should go into sales, cybersecurity sales. Your superpower is that. Go do that. Or, I'm a paralegal. I've been a paralegal. I was a paralegal in the Air Force. Great. Then why are you going to go start something like maybe if you're not good at that, you go do something else. But if you've been doing that, go do that for a cyber company. Like go to your favorite identity provider, MDR, EDR. You pick the acronym. Go there and do what you are best at. And it doesn't have to be technical. And we need those people because that makes a diverse industry. Uh, Nicole, can you hear us? We might need to introduce you. You're gonna have to select a different input.
Yep, I don't hear her.
And I see KevTech. What's going on, Kevin? I see you in the chat over there. You're typing lots of words. So I'm not gonna be able to read them all as we go.
Yeah. And thank you, Kevin, for making that post on my LinkedIn as well. And just if you're 100% right on the A plus recommendation, I don't recommend A plus. Uh, it, it's good if you've got time, but it's it's not necessarily necessary.
See if we can. There, we got a little bit better view here. Or you know what? This one might even be better. Hey, now we can see
Yeah,
everybody
there we go.
easily. All right. Nicole, can you hear us now?
And Reno
Or can we hear you? Oh,
still can't hear her. We're getting there.
This is what happens when we have to switch to a different system last minute. Thank you for bearing with us. The goal is to make sure that no matter what platform we're on, we're still getting you usable, actionable information. So, uh, and I can go a little bit over if we need to as well.
Well, while we're still waiting on her, I've got another question I can fire away at you.
Yeah.
So I know mentoring and mentorship, sharing knowledge is huge for you. Obviously,
Mhm.
you got your own Restream, YouTube, LinkedIn Live, all that stuff. So, talk to us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. So, um, let's talk about why I do as much mentoring as I do. I think that's important because it's not just mentoring to mentor. A big reason that I spend this much time in the industry is one because when I was looking for mentors in this space, before I went to undergrad, so we're talking 2000 to 2005, um, there it was really really hard to find mentors, and I'll be honest, that pissed me off. So first off, I kind of want to right that wrong that I felt in the industry, and second is I find personally a lot of value when I I hear people that I've mentored come back and they message me, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 18 months later, and they're excited because they actually got their dream job. They got to where they wanted to be, and I get to be a part of that journey. So that for me, that's personally very fulfilling. It's not um and believe it or not, my own Myers-Briggs type is a INFJ, which the I stands for introvert. So I am an introvert. This is all learned. uh, so that because I always go down that route. I don't recommend being a mentor for everyone. What I do recommend for everyone though is networking. And oftentimes that is one of the big outcomes of the mentoring sessions is I prescribe networking for people. And I don't mean, the 7 layers of the OSI model. Specifically, what I mean is going out and meeting people. And so I'll just give you the bottom line up front on that. The prescription is usually this: can you find 2 hours a week to come to an event like this? Virtual, in person, whatever. And then once you've done that and you've gone to a couple, can you find, like, what's the measure of success for that, right? Of coming out of one of these meetings. The measure of success is, for every one of these events, can you find contact information and go have a coffee, a virtual coffee, a water, whatever, with at least 2 people from every one of these events? Because if you do the math on that, if if you can actually commit to that over a year, you will have met 100 people in the industry that you want to be in. And if you can do that, eventually someone through that is going to say, "Oh, that's really interesting. I love what you're doing. Can you send me your resume? I'll forward it to, Francine in HR or Frank in HR." And that is how you really succeed in the industry. It's not just blindly sending out resumes. It's networking, figuring out who you need to go to for answers, and then that will drive job opportunities.
See, and I'm glad you bring all that up because, for one, I'm an INFJ as well. So
Oh,
completely, I'm there with you. Um, to the mentorship thing. So there's this, I'm sure you've seen Veterati. I don't know if you're part of it. I'm not, but I've seen it's one of those platforms that allows people to track all their veteran mentorships and all that. And it's great. I love that it's out there and that people use it. But I just don't think it's something that is necessarily for me. Um, I like helping people. I like helping our veterans, and I like helping to be able to provide that guidance for them as to um, where to pursue uh, that trajectory from the rest of their life. Because so many of us, and especially for me, so a little bit of background for me. I come from small town Oklahoma, joined the Navy, uh, did all the things that the Navy does for 20 years, and when I came out of it, I didn't have a degree after 20 years. I didn't know necessarily what I wanted to do. I kind of figured it out along the way. I knew that, hey, I want to do something with tech, but I wasn't in a place that I could go into tech at that time because the way my career was broken up, I was 8 years essentially removed from any tech. For any of you out there that are Navy, I was a sonar tech and then I became a Navy counselor. So I know Reynaldo said, did you ever work with any ITs? Yeah, I worked with Navy ITs and Navy RMs before IT existed. Um, but yeah, I did all that tech stuff. And then for the last 8 years I was in, I really didn't do any tech stuff. Um, but I knew I wanted to get back into it because as an introvert, I would much rather deal with technology than people. But I know how to deal with people. So I just, if you have your preferences. But it's funny you bring up INFJ just simply for that. But yeah, being able to have that mentorship and also being able to help guide folks because when you're working with people, especially, and I found this mostly in coding, when you're working with people and you're talking to them through a coding project, you're also helping reinforce the ideas that you've done as well. So I don't know if that translates as much over to cybersecurity as it does for coding, but I know there is some scripting that you guys do in cyber as well. So
yeah, depends on the work roles. So if we were to break out the different technical work roles, some of them are almost pure computer science. Absolutely.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, there's many people that I know in the industry that actually spend all their time developing, and oftentimes they're like, if say we look at, I'm going to keep this vendor agnostic, but say we look at like an amazing endpoint detection and response, like an AV on your endpoint. Somebody has to build those. So that is a developer that spends literally all of their time getting code into production for cybersecurity. And then, there's many roles. If you look at most cloud environments today, many of the roles in that are engineering and scripting and Python and APIs and just getting systems to talk to each other so that way you can get the visibility you need to actually make decisions. Nicole, try saying something.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. Sorry, I had to do some MacGyver stuff with my laptop here to get it to work.
You got it. It works.
Hey,
Awesome. And I'm an INTJ.
All right.
so
We
there
got
you go.
a bunch of
I,
INJs.
and truth be told, I switch back and forth between the INFJ and the INTJ every time I take the test. So you never know which one it comes out to be.
Jeff, should we have Nicole
So now that
give
we,
her background a little bit?
yep, now that we got Nicole up, I'm going to turn the floor over to her and let her give her intro.
Great. All right. So I started out my career in the Army at 17 years old and this is going to age me a little bit, but I was a 31 uniform back in the day, which was a signal support system specialist. I did not start out in computers because at that time there was an MOS just for computers that was in the 74 series, which is the adjutant branch. So we hadn't quite picked up cybersecurity yet. So I was mostly in tactical comms. And then when I was deployed, I was on a special counter IED team during deployment. But during deployment is actually when I gained most of my experience with networking. I took over a large independent brigade level network from a contractor, pretty much independently. And that's where I started out my IT career. But then when I redeployed, I became an ISO for a large intelligence brigade at Fort Hood, Texas. And then in 2008, I transitioned out of the military and became a military spouse. So that kind of gave me the other side of that coin, trying to find a job and break into cybersecurity as a spouse. And since that time, I've been able to hold multiple roles. I kind of have a unique perspective because I've not only been a contractor for multiple companies, but I've also been a Department of the Army civilian, as well as a Department of the Air Force civilian, and now working in industry for Lockheed Martin. So that's just my scoop.
And it looks like we got Mick on as well. So we can just continue on down the road and do introduction. So Mick, go ahead and give us your introduction.
Hey, y'all, can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can.
Yes. All right. Woohoo. All right. So forgive me for being late to the party, but here I am. I am Mick Merritt. I don't have a long intro. I like puzzles, and therefore I like cybersecurity because it's all about problem solving and solving problems, solving puzzles. Little over, I don't know, gosh, 8 years or so on the offensive side doing red teaming, penetration testing kind of stuff, and about 8, 9, almost 10 years doing IT or traditional IT, system administration and network administration. Did boundary protection, perimeter security for a really long time. Now I am a CISO for a small training company and also teach boot camps and things along the side. So pretty much all the certification vendors that you can think of. That's me in a nutshell.
All right, so now I can catch up on some of the questions. Thank you two for being able to join us. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit and jump that back to some of the questions. And my very first one is gonna be straight to Mick. So from physical security all the way back in the day to now, where along there did you say, hey, this is cybersecurity is where I want it to be?
I don't, gosh, I thought about your question because you sent them out ahead of time, but I don't know that I ever said I'm going to be in cyber. I just sort of ended along that path. I started out, yeah, way back in the day, I wanted to be a cop way back in high school. So I kind of fumbled around through college for a little bit. That didn't really work out. So I went in the military and I said, hey, I'm going to wait 6 months to get a guaranteed job in military police. And I got it. Nobody else ever waits for a guaranteed job in military police, by the way. I was like the first one ever. But I loved it. There just wasn't a lot of challenge necessarily to it. And I had a really good officer at the time that was like, hey, have you thought about doing something else? And so I applied for Intel roles and IT system administration roles. And the Air Force said, yeah, we'll take you as a system admin. Went off and kind of just started down that path. Never looked back. And now I do cyber. So, okay. Yeah.
And we hit another one of yours while you were out, and
Oh, okay.
and the question was about the you don't have to be in tech to be in cyber.
Oh gosh, yes.
And Stefan hit that a little bit, so I wanted to
Got
ask you where your thoughts were on that one.
So I make everybody mad when I say that. So very specifically, you do not need to have an information technology background. You don't need to work in IT to be in cybersecurity. Do I feel that you can just throw away all the tech knowledge? No. There is definitely some tech knowledge that's going to be needed, especially depending on the role you're going to choose. But I don't agree that you need to go spend 5 or 10 years working a help desk or system administration or traditional IT roles. We need cybersecurity folks right now today with enough knowledge that we can get them in and working. So I'm big on that. I harp on that often. I make a lot of people mad too because they don't like to hear it. But you don't need to go cut your task on help desk. You can, right? That's great. If you want to go get a help desk role, you want to get a system admin role, you want to get a network admin role, you want to, traditional Cisco systems and working with routers. There's nothing wrong with any of those jobs. We need people in IT, the same as we do in cybersecurity. But for those that really want to be in cybersecurity, we've got to find a better, cleaner path to help people get in. We've got tons and tons of folks that want to get into the field. We need to help them get there. And we can do that. I can teach tech all day. What I can't teach you is curiosity. What I can't teach you is to sit and think through problems. What I can't teach you is bigger picture questions and understanding our adversarial attackers and bad actors and all those kinds of things. Those are tough to teach. The tech stuff, I can teach that. You want to learn how to hook up a router and iOS? I got that. You want to learn how to, run Linux or code in Python? I can teach you all those things. That stuff's easy. Not easy, but it can be taught. It's the curiosity that we can't exactly teach. So that's my foot stomp, I guess, for the day.
And
One little hype there, real quick, is that anytime. So if you look at some of the standard operating procedures for our adversaries that have been released lately, they literally use sales tools, US-based sales tools, as they identify targets. Which, funny story, almost all of the initial piece is stuff that we learned in the military that's transferable of knowing your enemy, and which those sales tools means that human is basically just sales. So once you can grasp that, anybody in intelligence community can do sales.
yeah, and that same theme rings true for all three of these Tech the Halls webinars that we've done. Is when it comes down to it, the tech portion is not the difficult portion. Learning how to code, not difficult. You guys from the military come out of the military, and for the entire time, whether you were in for 2 years or 4 years or 6 or 15 or 20 or 30, you did nothing but logic-based work. Every time you turn around, everything was logic-based. And then that's all tech seems to be, is it's all logic-based. Whether it's learning Python, learning JavaScript, whatever it be, it all seems to be tech-based or logic-based. So with that, I'm going to jump over to the question for Nicole. You mentioned in your intro that you started your career off at 17 and wore a 31 uniform. So that is essentially signal. Was this the
Correct.
plan all along? Was it always going to be cybersecurity?
So, unlike Mick, I was impatient when I joined the military and I took whatever job was available. I originally wanted to go into intelligence, but they didn't have any jobs available. So, I was told about this great 31 uniform job where I get to do some technical work. So, that's when I enlisted as a 31 uniform. That was not the plan all along, but it did help me transition to my first civilian job as a Department of the Army civilian working for the Network Enterprise Center at Fort Hood, Texas. Um, and I did that job for about 2 years until I realized I did not have the technical background to be doing DIACAP at the time and now RMF. So I left that position and I took a help desk position, which is exactly what Mick said you didn't need to do. But I felt for my own career, I really needed to put some meat behind the potatoes of cybersecurity, which I just didn't have that foundation that I was looking for. So cybersecurity came and went for me a couple times, but ultimately I've spent most of my career in IT and systems engineering. trying to learn the foundations behind cybersecurity, which I highly recommend to everyone.
All right, and you get the next question too. So,
Great.
like you, or well, like me, you got out so long ago that things like, and I'm not even sure if you know of them, but the CSP program or the SkillBridge program didn't
Yep.
exist for folks like us. So, what do you think of those? How do you think they're changing the game? And do you guys, I know Lockheed Martin has their own, I talk to Tom all the time, but Lockheed Martin's SkillBridge program, do you think that folks should be targeting cybersecurity as a skill bridge? And do you know of any cybersecurity outlets out there as skill bridge opportunities?
I definitely am a big promoter of the SkillBridge program, especially here at Lockheed Martin. I actually just hired one of our SkillBridge interns into a full-time SO role. So we do have those opportunities available through Lockheed Martin, and I know that a lot of the other big defense contractors, they use the same program. So although I didn't have those opportunities, I definitely find them to be very beneficial to today's service members. I wish I had those opportunities when I was transitioning. My only strategy was to kind of network with all of the counterparts in the civilian side and to kind of get my name known with those folks so that they would hire me once I got out. And that was pretty effective strategy. But yeah, I'm definitely a huge proponent of SkillBridge, and hiring our heroes is another great program that we hire people off very frequently.
Yeah, my only, I think, I think I heard somebody say that hire our heroes, or yeah, hiring our heroes, their 12-week plan. I think you have to have a bachelor's degree to go into that, and we see a lot of people that don't have that. Um, so my next question is for Mick, and then I'm going to jump over
Jeff,
for Stefan.
can
Oh,
I
yeah, go ahead,
can I
jump
round
in.
out that a little bit?
Yep.
Yeah, so the two general plans right now out there is between SkillBridge and hiring our heroes. Hiring our heroes is fairly lockstep, and there's not a lot of opportunity to move around the timeline. So if your mission schedule doesn't allow you to get in, hiring our heroes you just can't oftentimes participate in. It's a great program. It's just very prescribed. SkillBridge, on the other hand, requires a little bit more work from the employer to do, but you can just go out and find any company that's out there that's willing to put in a small curricula for you together. And Josh Mason and I and Adrian Tilston and potentially one or two other people are looking at open sourcing some of that now of curricula that we've built to help people that you can just, hey, can you teach me this for a job role while I'm there? And often you can just go, hey, employer, could you do this for me? Do you want me to work for you for up to 6 months for free? And then command comes back and says, you can only do 2 months and it has to be from January to February. And then the employer oftentimes says, okay, great, 2 months, that's better than nothing. And so you can do a 2-month stint without having to have your timeline so locked in with hiring our heroes. Often that's as we look at it, it's the more like your E6s and your O3s and higher that can't do hiring our heroes fellowship because they're so locked in our mission schedule. So it's better often for the seniors to go the skill bridge route.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, as far as SkillBridge goes and the difference between SkillBridge and CSP, many of you probably have not heard of Career Skills Program. It's essentially the Army's same thing as DoD SkillBridge, but it gives, if you will, if you can think of SkillBridge as a bucket, think of SkillBridge as a bucket that sits inside of Career Skills Program, and Career Skills Program actually offers more than what SkillBridge does because the Career Skills Program allows you to create your own, whereas SkillBridge has a lot of restrictions on it, and you have to go through a vetted program already. All those vetted programs still fall under CSP, but CSP you can just outright create your own with anybody
That's
you want.
if That's if the post has not denied it, because some posts are saying that you can only do one or the other. You can't actually do the full CSP. So last I'd heard, Joint Base Lewis McCord is saying you have to either go through SkillBridge or Hiring Our Heroes, period. So it's
Wow.
yeah,
That's
hey, that's frustrating for people, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's the one thing I've learned about the Army is the Army just kind of, they make their own rules regardless of what the regulation says.
If it
Um,
can make sense, it won't.
right,
Yeah, and our Navy folks are very restricted on what they can and what programs they can apply
absolutely.
for. So on the Navy side of the house, I am seeing a lot of frustration. If you're Navy out there and you need some help, reach out to somebody and let's help you because there are ways to get you into these programs that can help you out.
And
Air
if we
Force, I
haven't,
was Air Force. It was easy for me.
yeah, and they've just changed the Air Forces too on October 1st. They have a more streamlined way that it's kind of difficult to explain. And if you're Coast Guard, remember Coast Guard, you guys can still participate in it. National Defense Authorization Act of fiscal year 20 said you can, but Coast Guard just doesn't have a uh, instruction that says you can. But if you call Rodney Whaley, he'll tell you can. He's the POC listed on the most recent instruction. So Mick, you got the next question, and this one is, and I know you probably saw this. I found a video online of a Master Sergeant Merritt telling people, "Go get your feet wet, get interested, figure it out along the way." Tell us more about that philosophy.
Yeah, that's I did that video back when I was a WGU grad, and Lifetime TV wanted to feature a handful of WGU grads, so I did that video. But basically, yeah, start anywhere. Start anywhere that you possibly can. I think a lot of folks wait until they've got this cert, or they've got that education, or they got this experience, or they got whatever it is that you're trying to get. Don't necessarily wait. Jump in, get your feet wet, start with anything, and apply to roles that you're not even positive you're completely qualified for. Because what I'm seeing on the other side, I fill in as a hiring manager for a handful of different companies as a consultant, and what I'm seeing is a lot of folks will apply for roles after they've already got all the things needed, and so there's no real growth opportunity for those particular roles. So for veterans, especially, veterans come in with a ton of soft skills, a ton of soft skills, a ton of, depending what you did in service. Even my infantry folks will have skills that translate over to cybersecurity, right? So Stefan's like, yeah, that's me. So yeah, don't wait till you have the perfect package or the perfect resume or the perfect LinkedIn or the perfect whatever. Just get out there, learn what you can, and apply as soon as you can, and then hopefully, somebody will pick you up, because this really is just about people taking a chance on you. Field artillery in the house. I see you.
Yeah, and that's that was a recurring theme from our previous two sessions on the Tech to Hall sessions as well. Just get out and get started. It doesn't matter what you get started in, just get started and concentrate in one area, grow in that area, and then start to expand. So we kind of got through all of our questions, but I'm going to ask Stefan one more.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about a little bit with the mentorship and sharing, but what are some of the things specifically? I know you've done as far as your YouTube channel, and as far as some of the stuff with Josh Mason, and I know Jax Scott, and who's the other ones? Gerald Auger
Yeah.
and Paul
And Rick
Cummings.
and Ricky
Yeah.
Tan.
So go ahead and talk about some of that stuff for us, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah. So that's been it's been a ton of fun to be a part of the, kind of the content making community. Um and on the video side of the house, which I know Mick, you've been doing a lot more as well. Uh it's first off, it's fun to work with other people on this route. And the live stream that I did for the 13 service members that were killed in the explosion and uh, in Afghanistan as we were pulling out. Yeah, as I did the write up afterwards, I didn't realize this while we were doing it, but as I did the write up to publish, it was literally every single person that hopped on to talk and to to give back to the community during that period was a founder. So, what better network to build by creating content than a bunch of other people that are willing to go stand alone and unafraid in front of a market that wants to crush you, right? It's competition. So that experience is just it's a lot of fun, and it's also um going back to how I got started, there was a lot of really bad when you could find mentors early on, right? Early 2000s. And I think still to this day, there's a lot of just misinformation, as Mick brought up, right? You don't have to be in IT to go into security. There's so many other routes. And as we look at that, I want to make sure that we get that message out and help people understand that there's superpower in the market and their ability to make the lives better for their family oftentimes comes out from who they are, not what they do. And when you can align who you are with what you do, then like that's where the magic happens. That's where your superpower is. And Christian Espinosa talks about this quite a lot in his book, The Smartest Person in the Room, which is the kind of the idea of Kaizen. He did not develop it, but he's pumping it, and I fully support. And the route there again goes back to who are you? What are your motivations? What is it truly that you bring to the table? And then get you in a job where magic just happens instead of magic happening in spite of something else. Uh, and when you can do that, when you can figure that out early in your job search, you can save literal years of happiness, which is, that's why you know, we call this team happy day for me is because yes, the context here is security, but the goal is not necessarily to get people into security. The goal is to help people live their best lives. Um, and so that's kind of why I do this is yes, I want the security industry to grow, but that's kind of a second seat to, helping people get to where they want to be. And I see some questions coming in. Do you want to read them off, Jeff?
Yeah, we can do that. That's why I was actually trying to open up another one so I could pull up the chat, but it's not wanting to open for me. So I'll just read them from the side point here. So I want to call attention to the first one that stood out for me, and that was Josh Mason. Said
Uh-oh.
skip the
He's at it
garbage.
again.
Yep, I know. He said skip the garbage job and go start your cyber career. Absolutely. I just want to highlight that. I had one of the folks that I worked with when I was over at Hunter Army Airfield was Tracy Arrington. She is now the lead tap for the Coast Guard at Coast Guard Station Miami. But one of her definitions of job was the acronym JOB, and JOB stood for just over broke. So that's the thing I want to tell you guys. That's what a job is. It's just over broke. Go find your career and pursue that, and don't pursue a job. But yeah, let's jump over to the questions.
Before we say whatever the
Let's
question's next, because I don't know what it
go.
is, I vote Nicole takes the first swing because we haven't gotten her to talk enough. And that's our fault, Nicole.
Because I was so quiet at the beginning.
I did not. Go ahead.
Oh, Jeff, I vote that you give the question and Nicole takes first swing.
Okay, we will do that. So let's go with Mr. Tom Zacher asked, how important is security or is it needed?
It depends on what kind of industry you're trying to break into. If you're trying to break into a DoD contracting or government role, clearance is most often needed. If you're looking at something more commercial, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Meta, a lot of commercials companies don't require clearance, so those opportunities exist. We do have some positions that we occasionally hire without a clearance, but that's very few and far between.
It's about 1 in 20 from my experience.
That sounds about right. But depending on your work and the industry, I think it really depends on that. Because you're not going to find a lot of DoD contracting jobs where you don't need at least a secret level clearance. So, like I said, depending on your industry, I do think it's important, but not necessarily need if you're looking outside the DoD.
I
Okay.
think it's pretty accurate. And I'll share a little bit from my experience on the recruiting side, is that certain geographies have different needs as well. So if we look at, say the top secret um, in Colorado, those requirements are going to be different than they are in the National Capital Region. And also it depends on what you're going to do and which entity you're going to do that with. Because some of those entities, they look at TS and they go, yeah, try again, puppy. And you have to have a couple different read-ons on top of that. And eh, oftentimes when there are those 1 in 20 opportunities for people that don't have the right clearance to get an upgrade, you have to be really friggin' good to even get considered with one of those. Um, and oftentimes, and I'll just be honest on this, the more interaction you have with foreign people, even if they have a clearance and are US like military, the harder it is to get through that process. And that can be very frustrating, and good luck.
Yep. All right. So next question, and this one's from Rosa Parra. I've been working towards getting the SOC analyst role, but due to health concerns, shifting and unpredictable hours, it isn't something that is realistic. What other recommendations do you have for me? And any one of you can take that. Whoever, Mick, you want that one?
Man, that's a tough one. SOC analysts, we need SOC analysts. A lot of those are really good starting roles, but those often require nights and weekends. Not always. It just depends on the SOC, depends on the company, depends on the organization. If that's, you just can't do the nights and weekends, I don't, without looking at your specific area and what's available in your area, but anything IT related would be good. System admin type roles would be good. Cyber threat intelligence type roles might be good starting roles too. I sometimes see security specialist roles. I've also done hiring where folks can't do nights or weekends, and sometimes go through the process applying and have that conversation with the hiring manager. I have helped folks get roles that required weekends, and been able to negotiate to where this individual doesn't do weekends for 2 years, or they cover every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night for the next, however long, to kind of make up the difference. So don't be afraid to apply for those. It's just something you're going to have to talk to the hiring manager, because don't think that you're automatically not going to be able to pick up. I definitely wouldn't recommend that.
All right. Thank you for that. Got the next question from Michael, and this one says, I'm pretty unfamiliar with cybersecurity, but I do have experience troubleshooting tech equipment and flying Army UAVs. What are the basic steps to take for finding and applying these skills? Whoever wants it.
Y'all know I can talk the whole time, so I'm gonna step back, and if nobody answers, then I'll go. So
So I would tell you, as
Go
far
ahead,
as
Stefan.
UAV, Army, never done anything. I was going to say, I never done anything with a UAV, the drone I've got here at the house, but I know it's not the same. But troubleshooting tech equipment, you understand logic. You understand AND gates and NAND gates and FOR gates and NOR gates and all that stuff. So you understand how logic is supposed to work. You understand how electricity is supposed to flow. That's basic technology right there, and you can pick anywhere in the field and just pursue. So I would go right back to what Stefan opened the entire conversation with an hour ago and say, start with the Myers-Briggs, personality traits, figure out what you are from there, go to the ONET online and do the personality profile for figuring out what type of jobs you want to work in, answer the questions on there. It's going to give you a list of traits and a list of styles of jobs. And then you can kind of look at that and start talking to people and doing informational interviews with folks online. You can jump into webinars, you can jump in just to connect with new people within your network and ask them questions, and jump on phone calls with them and ask them what made them pursue this role or that role or whatever. You could also jump on LinkedIn and find people that used to fly Army UAVs and find out what they're doing now and see what steps they did to go from what they did to what they're doing. That's my take on it.
I'll uh I'll add a little bit on there. So you could also go read the book made by my friends Dr. Jerry Ozier, Jack Scott, John Helmus, and Kim Nguyen. That talks about cybersecurity career master plan. So they do a really good job in the book helping you identify different routes you can go. And I know that if Josh Mason was on here as well, he would be talking about With You With Me. They're an Australian company that helps you do a little bit of like profiling on yourself, similar to Myers-Briggs. Oh, my voice cracked. What am I, 15? Um, and then they'll actually suggest different work roles for you based off of, kind of who you are. And then they also have training lines associated with some of those different routes. And as far as I know, the majority of it is free, question mark. Um, so that's another route that you can take a look at to help identify really what your proficiencies are and making sure that you're bringing the truest you to the table. Um, the other thing I'll recommend, we haven't talked about this at all, is the process of interviewing. So we've all seen like the whiteboard technical interviews of what happens when you type in a URL and hit enter, which you should be going to look at. But yeah, I'm Ron Burgundy. Thank you, Kurt, for putting that in the chat. Yes, that's me. Um, the other thing is really knowing your stories. So one of the things that I recommend often is going through and getting one of the various books on just like a ton of different interview questions, and not just practicing those interview questions, but rehearsing. So literally like sitting down with someone you trust. Like I could call Mick and say, "Hey Mick, could you listen to me rant about this?" And Mick will tell me, "Stefan, you've kind of got a shoddy answer on that." But knowing those answers so that way you can tell your stories. So like, hey, when I was in Afghanistan, we were in this really tough place and there was a really hard thing and the enemy was really entrenched, and we were still able to accomplish our goals. Like they're your stories. You need to get excited about them. You know when to be quiet. You know when to get like they're your stories. Getting to know how to talk about those without talking about S3, N6, the ISSM over here. Like no one cares. Literally, no one cares about any of those acronyms. So explaining those stories in pure English goes a long, long, long way.
Since our audience is predominantly, it's all veterans, military spouses and stuff, for those that are transitioning, for those that are thinking, what's my next step? I can't emphasize enough, sit with it for a minute and think about who you are first. Who are you? Prior to service or during service, you developed yourself. You became someone. You have values, you have morals, you have family that you care about, but define that, sit with that. Who am I? And what is next for me in the sense of where do I see myself or what do I want to do? Because if you can narrow in who you are and what you want to do, then it's far easier to say what jobs align to that type of thought process or personality trait that I have, right? Whether that's Myers-Briggs or another personality, there's a million personality tests. They keep telling me I'm introverted. I don't know, whatever. They also tell me I'm a feeling type, which I don't agree with at all. I'm more judgmental than anything. But hey, all that's good. But figure out who you are because you're getting ready to have an opportunity to do anything. You could do anything. It could be IT, it could be cyber, it could be medical, it could be logistics, it could be driving a truck. Like no one's going to judge you for what you choose to be your next path, but figure out first who you are, then decide what jobs align to that personality, those family values, those morals that are going to guide you. Too many veterans skip that stage and they just like transition. I need to just translate my military jargon into civilian jargon. Stop. Who are you? Then we'll help you go from there.
Nailed it. Mick, 2 points.
Yep. And I'll tell you, and just my own personal on that one is, look, when I got out, I knew I had to go into a role, and I had to get into something that could pay the bills. And tech just wasn't an option at the time. But now I'm making that transition to tech. And what many of you don't know is that I no longer work for Fort Stewart TAP program. I'm moving on to something else. This is just the final project that I was working on as we go. I will be going to been wanting to try to get into and have been steering my way for a long, long time to get there. And I'm finally getting there. So what I would tell you on that same token of what Mick just talked about was take the time that you need and you know, of the start planning your transition out of the military the day that you join the military. Don't wait until I'm 2 years from retirement or I'm 18 months. The Army recommends 18 to 24 months prior to retirement or 12 to 18 months prior to my separation. This is something you should be working on from the very day you get in it to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. Because I don't care how you get out, whether it's a retirement or if it's a separation after 4 years or if it's a separation after 10 or if you stay for a full 30 or it's a med board and you got 100% service connected disability. No matter how you get out, chances are you're probably going to want to do something with the rest of your life. So plan it and figure it out because the military is not going to want to keep you forever and you're not going to want to stay there forever. So the next question I've got is comes from Luke Small. Would focusing on the basic intermediate pen tester certs give you a very solid foundation for all of the cybersecurity jobs? There's a lot of black and white in that question. Go ahead with that one.
I don't think the pen tester certification would get you into the broad field of cybersecurity. I think that's very specific if you're looking for pen testing roles. Same with another question that popped up about project management certification. I don't think that that's going to help you break into cybersecurity, but I definitely believe that that's a good certification to expound on. I think that somebody else had asked if they thought OJT or certifications were more important. And I think that to kind of answer that, I think that your degree is going to be your foot in the door. That's your foundational background. Most jobs now do require at least some type of degree just to be considered. And then certifications become your kind of icing on top of that cake, the way that I see it. So I think that some more general security certs would be something like Security Plus. If you're looking at getting into networking field, Network Plus, some of those vendor agnostic certifications that give you a little bit more of a broad field. Plus, if you're looking at breaking into any kind of DoD role, Security Plus is kind of the foundational certification for those roles.
Hey,
and
Nicole, we also just had we had a specific question come through on the chat for, does Lockheed have remote jobs in the cleared space?
I can only speak for what we do here at Colorado Springs, and some of the other Lockheed Martin sites that I've been at. There is typically no room for remote work. There may be some ability to flex your time and work from home periodically, but for the most part, work in the classified space is to be done on site.
In terms of certifications, circling back a little bit, one of so to part of the conversation that I usually have with people as we start to take a look at certs is, what do you want to do and where do you see yourself going? We've already talked about who you are, but where do you want to be is another question. And even if you want to get into security, oftentimes what I actually recommend first is like AWS Cloud Practitioner, or Google has their new Certified Cloud Leader certification that I think just came out of beta, and Azure has their various AZ level ones as well. Oftentimes, I actually recommend those first because those unlock each of those different ecosystems and you don't necessarily have to fully know every like security plus fundamental to go into a really cool shop that drives value and generates value through intellectual property, like, you know, getting code into production. And you can go down the security route through those fairly quickly because you get to learn cloud, and cloud is designed to be easy as much as possible. The certifications are easy, and they're most of them relevant to what the work is you're actually going to do, because they build the platforms to be easy to use because they want you to spend money on their platform. So you can go to, we'll take AWS, right? Cloud practitioner, and then solutions
Solutions architect.
architect, and then go from solutions architect to cloud security. And then you're focusing on identity for the vast majority of that time. And their connectors are made to be easy. So it gets quickly to the point of, I'm looking at for a bad actor. Their identity is probably what they're going to abuse. If they're going to abuse their identity, where do I go from there? And you start doing the same things that we've all done, of whether it was fighting our adversaries or figuring out how to prank the next unit over and abuse their systems to steal their guide on. Like, it comes back to those same fundamentals that we all know. So there's a couple examples. And yeah, somebody talked about Oracle in there. Paul. Hey, Paul. Oracle's pushing into cloud again, pretty big. They didn't do great on their first attempt, and I think they're right now applying a bunch of new resources to go that route. So there's so many of these, so many different routes that you can go. But I like to generally align people towards the things that are moving the fastest because they tend to have the most growth opportunity. Mick, I see you nodding. I think you're about to jump into.
Cloud all day, right? Cloud leaks. Cloud is bad. Cloud is super insecure. But boy, you can get your foot in the door working in cloud, and we need you because the cloud. Everyone is using cloud. A lot of companies are going to cloud, and if they're not in cloud yet, they will be in cloud. Pick a cloud. It doesn't matter. I like AWS for veterans because AWS has a ton of resources for veterans, as far as training and opportunities for veterans. Azure does as well. Not saying no against Azure. Google has some specific scholarships they're a little tougher to get into. And Oracle, my friends at Oracle are trying to get onto cloud. They're a little late to the game, but they have big ideas. So any of those are good paths. Yeah, definitely. Stephen, cloud. Because you can learn about VPCs, you can learn about VLANs, you can learn about infrastructure, you can learn about how instances work and spin up instances easily. And it's all stuff we did in traditional IT, but now in the cloud.
And way faster.
And way faster.
And that's one of the things I've been trying to push and harp on so much, is because I get, I want to say the military is almost to the point where, our jobs are outdated because we still have people walking in the door that say, "Hey, I work on IT systems and I want to do IT when I get out." Okay, right, but what in IT? There's like 1,000 different roles and like 1,800 different paths, and what do you want to do? Well, I just want to go, be somebody's system administrator. Yeah, but those roles are kind of dying, man. They're dying because cloud is where nobody has the AS400 sitting in the basement anymore with the 25-man tech team.
I do come across AS400s, by the way, like more
I know.
often than I'd like to admit.
I know, but they're going away. They're not all gone yet, but they're going away. They're like dinosaurs, and they're going to all be gone, and everybody's going to switch over to cloud. So if you want to be in the space, pick up cloud. And everybody's giving away their training for free, and you can find it everywhere, like everywhere. Just open up your computer and type in cloud for free, and you're going to find it. Plus, oh yeah, CompTIA's Linux cert. That's great, Joseph. Linux Plus cert is currently running their beta, and they're only charging $50 for it. So go to the CompTIA website if you're looking for the Linux Plus cert. I'm about to start that one myself.
Hey, Jeff, I think that we were scheduled till I think we're about
till
like
17
minutes over, which is
minutes
totally
ago.
fine by me. I can go for another 13. I don't know if anybody else has to hop off, so I want to make sure if somebody does, we can do that gracefully. Before we close out, or go to the next couple questions, do you mind if I highlight a couple other people that have hopped in on chat?
Sure.
Okay. So first off, make sure if you're not following or connected to the 4 people that are on the panel today, please go do that. So connect with Nicole, connect with Mick, connect with Jeff, and then a couple other people in chat that you're probably going to want to connect with or follow as well. We had Kevdek in here as well. Kevin Apollino. We had Josh Mason. We had VetSec. Excuse me, KevTech and VetSec. Uh, yeah, so go follow VetSec as well. There's an annual conference every year. We had Paul Cummings. Just going through some of the names that I recognize in here. Hey, Tom Marsland. Francisco, I saw your message. Shout out to you. Let's see who else in here. I was wondering, did I like? Oh, Tom Zacher was
Tom
was
Zacher.
definitely in
Yep.
here.
Yep.
Who else are we missing?
You're missing my counterpart, Amanda Hook. She was in here as well. She's still here.
Yes, yep, Amanda Hook. So yeah, like go connect with these people because they're pushing the industry. Oh, and we saw Josh, but we didn't say cyber supply drop as well. So free training, free material, like just go play and get stuff because it's awesome. Um, yeah, the opportunities here are endless, and in just the people that we've talked about right now, we're connected to probably 95 or so people in the percent of the people in the community in this community right now. So if we don't have an answer, we probably know someone that does. Okay, that plug is complete. Jeff, I'll give it back to you, and we can go whatever's next.
Well, I was going to say one more. I think if Josh is still here, Cyber Supply Drop, I think, is donating to the Boots to Books event that's going on tonight. That's to industry is also partaking in.
Oh, great! Yeah.
So at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, so about a little over 2 hours from now, they're going to start their Christmas giveaway. So if anybody is not in that one, hey, go get some free stuff. You can find it on LinkedIn too. Just go to Boots to Books. There you go. And Josh said, yes, we are. Okay. And then there's Amanda's LinkedIn as well. So with that, yeah, I'd like to take the opportunity to wrap it up and just ask one last thing. If, and this is the question I've kind of asked everybody, if there is a program, statistic, metric, benefit, or little known fact out there that you'd like to highlight, I'm going to ask Nicole and Mick, please do so now. I think Stefan, you took your chance to do that, but you can also plug some more if you want to plug some more. But Nicole, is there anything else out there you'd like to highlight?
There's a couple folks that I follow. Meg West, if you don't know about her, she has a lot of good webcasts about breaking into cybersecurity. And then if you're into AppSec or app development, Tanya Janka is another person who I follow who has really good resources. And then I'm going to throw in my plug for an organization called WeSys. Because believe it or not, only 24% of the cyber workforce field is women. So I'm a mentor currently for WeSys, and they don't just accept women, they accept men as well. And I think that everyone could benefit from a membership. If you're a veteran, it's only $20. If you're active duty, it's $40. I think the most expensive membership is around $95. So it's a really good organization. Every year they have a conference where you get to meet people and network. So check it out. I can't type in the chat, but it's WICYS, spelled WICYS.org. WICYS.org. And that's all I've got.
All right. And Mick?
It's crazy to think 24% of women today. Just 2 years ago, we were at 11%. So to see that growth and so much room to grow. I think Stefan already shouted out all the names I would have shouted out, but the community is what I love most about cybersecurity. This is the most inviting, welcoming community. I'm an advocate for LGBTQ IA plus. You're welcome here. Minorities, you're welcome here. All the folks that think, you're on the autism spectrum, you're welcome here. All of those folks that are out there that are thinking, can I find my way in cyber? You can, whatever group you happen to be of. And if you're not in a group at all, you're just list one person and you're weird, we'll take you too, right? So the community is amazing. Definitely connect with as many people as you can. I'm on LinkedIn. I will likely be launching YouTube in 2022. That's the rumor.
Dibs on first guest.
Right on. But definitely connect with me on LinkedIn because that's the only place I'm at now. I do stock Twitter, but I don't have any good content out there. So find me on LinkedIn.
And thank you. Thank you all three. I'm gonna make one more plug. Amanda Sosa had asked the question, do you help non-vets? And I think that was a question towards the Fort Stewart Hunter Army Airfield TAP. And I'm going to tell you and answer that question for everybody here. The TAP organization, the Transition Assistance Program organization, at every military installation is there to help the transitioning service member and whatever needs they have. That means if a spouse is in need and they have a need for assistance as well, that spouse is perfectly welcome inside that transition assistance program. Same thing with dependent working age kids. So if you've got needs there, they can go into those classes too. They don't have to sit side by side with you. They can go in completely separately and enroll on their own and go to whatever classes that they want to or need to go to or attend. They can also get personal assistance as much as they need to as well. The transition assistance program is not just definitively for the service member. It is for the service member and their family. So don't ever hesitate to use it. But with that said, I will close out tonight. I want to thank all of my panelists, especially for jumping through hoops, because believe it or not, it was 3.5 hours ago that we found out that Zoom was going to be unavailable. And here we are now doing this after we've been planning for Zoom for, I don't know, 6 months. So definitely thank you guys for being able to adapt and overcome that situation and being able to join us tonight and share your wisdom with our audience. We had, I think the final total before we started at 5 was 110 registered. So our biggest event so far. And I want to thank you guys for that. And that's all I've got. So happy holidays to everybody. And thank you all very much.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
My pleasure.
Thank you.